Denver here from Darkness Central, bringing you a video today on how to create super slow motion in Adobe After Effects with the Twixtor 5 plugin. This is along the lines of what we will be creating today. Just a simple AK-47 reload clip. Goes into sudden slow motion. As you can see, very smooth, a little bit of distortion. Hopefully we won't get that in our new clip. And that is what we'll be creating today. So you're going to want to have Adobe After Effects open and your clip dragged into its own composition. Now you're going to want to take note of the frames per second at the top in your project with your video selected. This is important because Twixtor requires the correct frames per second to be inputted so it can work its magic properly, I guess you could say. And it's one of the main reasons dazzle clips do not work very well with the Twixtor plugin, as it's just not a high enough frames per second. And PC at higher frames per second work great because there's just so little distortion. It's incredible. So you want to click on your video and go to Effect, RE Vision Plugins, Twixtor, add that. You want to click Smart Blend, just adds a nice effect to it. It creates a good blend. And you're also going to want to click the Enable Frame Blending option in the Adobe After Effects timeline bar down here, right here. So with that selected, you're going to want to find where you want to start your clip to slow down. I know mine's at around 6 seconds, so I'm going to go to around 4, drop down, Twixtor, Effects Twixtor, Output Control, Speed, click the little stopwatch, set its own keyframe. So you're going to want to go to right before you want it to start slow motion, I guess. I'm going to have ours start right about there. So we're going to go back a few frames to right about here. Create a keyframe, go back to where we had it with no distortion, looking very good, and bring it down to the desired speed. We're going to go with 15%. That's just what I've found works well. So as you can see, it goes and then gets really, really slow. I almost forgot to mention, in your Twixtor, you're going to want to add 15 frames per second, which in our case 59.94. It will just make it an insane amount better. It will minimize the amount of distortion you have by huge amounts. As you can see, there's still a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and bring down the motion sensitivity a little bit. You can play around with some settings just to how you like it. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 100%. You can leave it at whatever you like. You can play around with it. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to leave it at 100. So now you're going to want to go to where you want it to go back in time. Say we want it to go right there. I'm going to go back a couple frames to about here, set a keyframe, go back to where we were at about there, and then bring it down to a negative number of, say, 50. And now it will be going, it's going to go backwards. So we can go go to here, go back a couple frames. That's how you set it. You do a couple frames. You have to have 2 keyframes where you go so that it doesn't actually interfere with the original speed you have. Go to back to where you had it and bring it back up to 100%. And as you can see, it'll go back to shooting and all that stuff, so we'll end it at around 16 seconds. And that will stop it from rendering any farther, which is a good tip. So just add a little bit more of effect. We're going to go color correction. We're going to go ahead and change the curves a little bit. Just bring it down a little. Something like that. And we're going to go into effect. Now if you don't have this, don't worry, but if you do, it's a nice plugin. It's called No Light Factory. I'm sure most of you doing this have heard of it. Go ahead and pick a nice blue, and we will just leave it at that. Let's see, it just adds a light in the sky, I guess you can say. It adds a nice light. It's nothing major, just something you can do to just make it a little bit nicer. But we're gonna actually move it over a little bit so that the blue isn't right in the middle of the screen, which is a little bit ugly. Leave it at that, it's fine for the purposes of this video. Twixtor does increase the render time, as obviously it's a plugin doing a lot of work and needing a lot of power. So we're going to go ahead and click add to render queue. We're going to go and click a output destination, and we're going to name it Twixtor tutorial DC. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the sound, we don't need it in case it's set. And we're going to click render. Now to tip, you're going to want to click caps lock so it will not refresh the preview every frame. This saves a heck of a lot of RAM usage and speeds up your computer as well as the renders. So you're going to go ahead and click render, and I will be back when we are done recording, or done rendering. As you can see, it's done rendering. Looks pretty good for the amount of time spent. A little bit of distortion, but what can you do? And that concludes this tutorial. If you like what you saw, don't forget to click that subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.